Hello everyone, this is Kim Lay with A2Q2, and in this video I'll be sharing with you the activities that we recommend for a company that's preparing for a public company readiness initiative or a SOX readiness initiative, and it covers the Treasury cash management process. Sometimes people group this together with an expenditure process. We've pulled it out for a couple of reasons, and I'll share with you here. So the activities that we would recommend are at the top here, from assessing control gaps. So typically for a treasury process, we start with assessing gaps by interviewing the current process owners, understanding what it is that they currently do now, identifying potential gaps in controls that for completeness, accuracy, disclosure of your financial statements. And next, we would be documenting the process and controls. The two methods to document or two deliverables that come out of it is either a flow chart or narratives. Historically, narratives have been more popular. Within the last 2 or 3 years, flowcharts have gained ground. That's because your external auditors, typically your Big Four auditors, are requesting companies prepare flowcharts instead. And the reason that's happening is because the PCAOB has been asking the external auditors when they get audited, how do you understand a process from beginning to end? It's not required. The SEC does not require that. The PCAOB does not require it. It's just a form that makes it easier to understand or visualize segregation of duties, visualize a lot of this. Next is going to be creating your risk control matrix, or RCM. Your RCM is one of the most important documents. Auditors will really focus on that. And so in conjunction with preparing your flow charts or your narratives, you're creating that RCM. And the next one is recommended, although not required, recommended to do a walkthrough. A walkthrough is a show and tell. It's a way that you can do what's called test of design. It's assessing if the control is designed to really mitigate the risk or address the risk that you're looking for. The difference between a walkthrough and a process interview or gap analysis interview is a walkthrough is literally showing and telling on screen what initiates this transaction. Show me what that looks like. Here's a PO. Here's the approval from my manager. Here's what it looks like on screen. Here's how I record it. Here's how someone approves it. Visualizing and being able to see each of those elements throughout the entire process. The walkthroughs are more accurate in that whatever someone tells you by an interview is probably 80% of what they typically do. When we happen to select a transaction, then we can see really the granularity of it and can ask more probing questions. When someone says, I review an invoice, doing a walkthrough, they can actually show you, I review the date, I review the description, I review the amounts, I review the quantities, here's what it looks like. So that's why we highly recommend a walkthrough. When you are private and doing a readiness initiative, testing is completely optional. Many of our clients cannot get to the testing because they run out of time and resources as well. So that's why we've put testing as optional. Now, once these are the activities that you're doing, I'm going to outline the sub-process or the types of activities that you're going to ask about. So you're going to document the bank system access, the banking, who has access as administrator, who has access to approve and initiate, who has access to cut checks. Your banking system is so important that it's all of your banking systems, get an inventory of it, understand how the company uses the various bank accounts, whether it's operating account, payroll accounts, disbursement accounts, cash receipts accounts, transfer accounts only. Next is going to be your ACH and your wire receipts. Typically, it's incoming. When we discuss it in Treasury, it's sometimes you can also see it through the order to cash process. But here, when ACHs or electronic payments come in, how are those treated? Who records it? Who makes sure it's coded to the right place? These are typically one-off types of receipts, such as investments, loan payments, those types. They tend to be larger dollar amounts than your normal AP disbursement or your accounts receivable types of disbursements. We also typically cover investment management, and investments can include marketable securities. It can include private stock that you're buying or equities that you're buying. So that's we lumped it together with investment management, investment account reconciliation. So if you have marketable securities, which our tech companies all have, they either are sitting there to be used or a certain amount is invested. And that's where you would look into investment policy. Is the investment policy reviewed? Has it been approved by a CFO, by an audit committee? Those are the types of controls or activities we'd look for. And reconciling, making sure the reconciliations for bank accounts, investment accounts, marketable security accounts are done. Debt issuance and debt compliance is also another process that we typically see in the Treasury process if you have debt. So who can approve debt? Who can review and sign off on debt? Because the accounting for debt can typically be very complex if you have warrants with it. And then debt compliance. Is it a quarterly basis, monthly basis? Who's preparing, who's reviewing? Because those trigger liabilities that may need to be disclosed on your financial statements. We want to make sure that we understand that process. And then lastly is going to be system administration and SOC 1 report reviews. Now, for banking system, we want to look into all of that. And if you have investments, looking at segregation of duties within your investment accounts. And if you're relying on a bank to manage your investments, such as Clearwater, very typical that our clients are using investment advisors to get the valuation for their investments. And so if you're relying on them, then you want to also get a SOC 1 Type 2 report and make sure that any of the activities that you've outsourced to them, that they have the right controls over. The other question I sometimes get is, do you need a SOC 1 for your normal banking activities? That is a no. And the reason is you may initiate the transaction, but at the back end, you are doing a reconciliation, you're recording, you know how much you've asked them to transfer, you know how much you're recording in your books. So that covers the Treasury process, the activities that are needed, and the types of areas that you would cover. Thank you so much and talk with you soon. Bye.